Almost time. Smile was written and directed by Parker Finn in his feature film debut and stars Sosie Bacon or Bacon. I prefer to say Bacon because I really want bacon even at this late hour. She plays Rose Cotter, a therapist that deals with trauma patients and understands trauma all too well. We find out why a little bit later in the movie. And she works long, long hours, has a fiance named Trevor, and she deals with patients that have all kinds of trauma. And then one day she witnesses a very, very traumatic event with a particular patient that ends up having drastic ramifications and changes her total view on the entire world and turns her world upside down. And she has to figure out why in the world this one particular incident is haunting her so much. So when I saw the trailer for this, I got massive Truth or Dare vibes. The 2018 Blumhouse version, not the 2017 version that wasn't all that good and was somehow making the 2018 version look good by comparison. But with the smiles and the fact that, the trailer made it seem really goofy and almost a horror comedy, I really didn't have high expectations. And honestly, outside of the trailer, I didn't really read up on. I did see some stills of the viral sensation where people are just being the smiling people. And Paramount Pictures has been putting a lot of effort into the advertising. They've really been pushing this thing. Now, since I went in with absolutely no expectations, I was like, okay, are we going to go to a horror comedy? Am I going to be able to laugh at this? What is going to happen? I was also worried by the fact that it had a nearly 2 hour runtime. And considering that the biggest star in this movie was Cal Penn, and he has a supporting role, I was like, okay, I recognize a few of the other names. There's Kyle Gallner, there's Caitlin Stacy, there's Robin Weigert, and there's Jesse T. Usher, not your Usher, makes your booty go, not that Usher, but Judy Reyes, Kevin Kempe, and Rob Morgan. And there's a few recognizable faces here. I do recognize Miss Bacon or Bacon from a few episodes of the Scream TV series, and I was like, okay, you know what? Some horror movies have surprised me. Barbarian surprised me, and a few others on streaming have surprised me. And I am happy to report that this is not a horror comedy. This is one of the most chilling horror movies I have seen in quite some time. This was just hammering you pretty much from the beginning, and it all made sense. Yes, it's ridiculous with the mere fact that there's people just, smiling, doing all this, and it is very haunting. It could have been goofy in the hands of a director writer that didn't understand the source material, but it's almost like Parker Finn himself understands trauma and how people deal with trauma, and as the main underlying, overlying, all relying theme is trauma from an early age, trauma that we don't deal with, unsettled trauma, just whether it's family, friends, anything can haunt us, and that's what this movie really deals with well. I was very surprised. This is probably this and Barbarian are probably the two most surprising horror movies that I've seen this year, and right below that, The Black Phone, because there was potential with The Black Phone. This has been a banner year for horror. There have been some really bad horror movies, and I'll talk about that in a few months. With Smile is right up there with the best, and I did not expect to say that. This is goddamn good. So she does a great job here. She, has to convey a lot of emotions. I got almost Hereditary vibes from this, but I mean, Hereditary, you could argue, is a better movie overall with how it deals with, trauma and tragedy and stuff like that. But the way this has crazy camera tricks. It flips the world upside down, which makes sense given, how we deal with trauma, how trauma can make it feel like our world is flipped upside down, and how when people experience certain things, view certain things, is it all in our head? Is it actually stuff that we're viewing? Is it actually stuff that's legit happening? Are we going crazy? What is going on? Trauma is so hard to convey, and it explores the mental health aspect and all that, and it does it pretty well. I don't think it does it necessarily with a slap in the face. There are a couple issues that I do have. I will get into spoilers here in a little bit. I didn't necessarily like the at times over reliance on the jump scare boom noise, but I think that it did a really, really good job with atmosphere. The camera tricks were quite good. There were some shots inside, one particular house that were really good. There's some shots towards the end that were really, really goddamn great. There was some great technical work here, and some pretty good acting, and some good fake outs, and not fake outs just for the sake of doing them. It all made sense. Like, is this character losing their mind, or is this shit really, really happening? And the way they explain what happens, it all ties back to the beginning, and it all makes sense. It all makes sense that if you don't deal with your past, then that can come back to really, really haunt you. Or it just turns out that there's some really, really fucked up shit going on. So Smile is really, really goddamn good. Even the scares that you see in the trailer actually work in this one. I mean, there is one that, everybody's seen where the girl, approaches and then hangs her head down. I mean, that one's in the movie. They didn't just fake it out by having that in the trailer. But there's some shockingly good acting here and some really good atmosphere. And surprisingly deep narrative on the mental health aspect and dealing with trauma and all that. I would highly recommend it. It was the theater I saw it in was actually shockingly somewhat full. There were 40 people in there at a 7 o'clock Thursday night show, which for my town is actually saying something unless it's a superhero movie. That is actually saying a lot. I expect this movie to do pretty well. And I'm definitely interested to see what everybody has to say, because the early critical reviews were quite good. Early audience reviews were quite good. Sure, there are some people that don't like it. There were some people that didn't like Barbarian. There were some people that didn't like The Black Phone. But this is right up there with the best horror movies of the year. And I really didn't expect that. And I was sitting there waiting, okay, am I going to hate this? Am I going to love this? I was enjoying it. I was like, all right, what are we going to do? Oh, okay, we're going, okay. So that's basically how I feel. So it was quite good. One of the best of the year. And I encourage you guys to check it out in theaters. So I'm going to get into spoilers, but it is in theaters right now. You could wait for streaming if you really want, but this could be one that might be worth experiencing in theaters. That is. So anyway, 3, 2, 1, and spoilers. Okay. So the traumatic past that Rose deals with is in the very beginning. There was rap, as the Lord and Savior Dr. Dre once said. I will continue to say that reference. But she witnesses we see a little girl witnessing her mother basically OD and pass away. Turns out that's Rose, which I think should have been pretty obvious. Now, Rose works with a lot of patients. She works with one that is in and out of this treatment facility. She tries to help people out. Dr. Desai, Cal Penn, hard to believe where Cal Penn, started and where he is now, and good for him. But I'm just saying, like, you see, like, some people can get typecast in movies, and he has actually managed to carve a pretty good career for himself. So, she tries to help people out, and even at one point, this guy says, the main doctor says, well, she doesn't have insurance. Well, we're not supposed to just turn a blind eye. Well, I understand that. It's not that I'm unsympathetic, but just let me know so I can get ahead of this. Because, yeah, unfortunately, it just kind of does a little bit of a reference to how the healthcare system in America is bullshit. It turns out that Rose has a fiance named Trevor, JT Usher, that makes your booty go, no, I'm kidding. They live in a fancy house that it's a weirdly designed house, but it looks all modern inside. They have a cat. I'm just gonna say right now that I'm glad they went with subtlety when it came to how the cat was going to be dispatched. Yes, whenever 9 times out of 10 in a movie like this, whenever there's an animal, you can almost guarantee that animal is going to die. That's what I hate about 1BR. Well, among other things like the fact 1BR sucked, but she she's about to leave one day, and then she gets a call from this, she gets a call, and it turns out this one girl witnessed, she witnessed something traumatic happen to her. She was taken into this hospital. And she is just freaking out, freaking out, freaking out. And then eventually she just, seeing this as this, it wears the faces of people with smiles and just does not the happy smile, the creepiest smile, like it wants to get at her, it wants to get inside her, it wants her. And then she ends up dispatching herself, cutting herself, and everything. So in the sheet, there's a smile that shows up. It's like the smile on the poster. And from there, Rose is haunted by this. She's haunted by the girl that she sees in her house. There's a recurring theme of her breaking glass, like breaking down and everything. Basically, she drops a couple wine glasses in a couple scenes. Um, and she keeps seeing all this stuff happening. She has to dive deeper and deeper into this. She's placed on basically administrative leave. She's paid on basically paid leave for a week to take care of herself because she sees the patient that's in and out all the time. This guy, she sees him like, smiling at her, and then he gets aggressive, but maybe she's seeing things, so she has him, restrained, and then she's placed on paid leave. And then things get really, really fucked up. She wasn't able to go to her sister's, son's birthday party. Her sister Laura, by the way, but she was, she was able to go. Um, she was able to, understand that he wants a train set. And then later that night, after she gets the gift, the cat's gone. And she's wrapping the gift. Think you know where this is going. She goes to the birthday party. She sees somebody that, that her sister introduces her to. Hey, you do therapy? I have a question. And then the son's unwrapping. Son gets to the train set, and it's a train box. Opens the box, and it's a dead cat. And she's like, no, 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 this is not me, this is not me, this is not what happened, all this. And she freaks out, and she goes through a glass table, this recurring thing of going through a glass table, breaking wine glasses, doing this. Her engagement to Trevor is falling apart. There's Joel, who is her ex. He's a cop, and she goes to him for help because she feels Trevor doesn't believe her. There's her old therapist, Dr. Northcott, played by Robin, and she's trying to help her, but Rose is like, well, I'm not crazy, and she sounded just like the girl that did that. And then as more research goes on, it turns out that this particular girl, saw a professor at the college that she was at bludgeon and kill himself with a hammer. And then more digging by Joel and more footage and more stuff going on, it turns out that he saw somebody murder themselves in their sleep. Oh, you mean suicide? No, it was murder, all right. If you're a murder by death fan, you are dying laughing in the comments. But anyway, it's laughter by death. So anyway, what ends up happening is that it turns out that this professor saw this old lady kill herself. She saw somebody at a gas station pick up garden shears and burning himself, do that. But they see footage of him smiling. What is this thing? What is this entity? Nobody believes her. Nobody believes Rose. She continues to go deeper and deeper into her psychosis, tries to talk to her sister. Her sister's a little bit older. Her sister felt bad leaving her in the house, but she had to get away. She endured so much of, their mom's, mental torture, and she had issues and everything. And then we get more and more stuff going on. We find out Joel does some research. There's one guy that managed to break the chain. The only way to break the chain, you don't kill yourself. You kill somebody, you have a witness, and that passes it on to them. Sure, you're in jail, but you won't be dead. And they go to visit this guy, and this guy's talking to her a bit, and she says, "Well, my patient has this issue or whatever, and what's going to happen? Well, this is what happens. You gotta kill somebody. You gotta have a witness. Well, I need answers or whatever because this is happening to me. It's happening to you. Why would you bring this here? And he starts freaking out. So Rose is just continuing to lose it. And then it turns out the only way to deal with this is to confront her past and go to the old house, now a dilapidated house, not a dilapidated boat. Matt Hardy is not here, thank fuck. And go to the old house where her and her sister and her mother used to be. And she does all this stuff. She goes there, and this is where things had picked up by this point anyway. She even got some fake outs where, like, at one point she got a call from the alarm system when the alarm went off, and they said, Rose, are you sure this happening? All this and everything, and she's freaking out. And then the therapist showed up, and then the therapist called on the phone. Well, I thought we'd touch base. Wait a minute, nah. And she's worried that Trevor is going to think that she's crazy. So she's at the house, and what ends up basically happening is she has to confront her mother, and we see one more flashback where her mother basically asks her to call for help, groggy and everything, thinking, "Oh shit, I need help." Well, basically what happens is, even though you could understand what happened, is Rose let her, at 10 years old, let her mother just pass away. Could have saved her, and ever since then has been carrying that trauma and doing her best to help other people while carrying that burden. She's got to confront that burden. And of course, obviously, it's not her mother. It's this weird creature, this weird smiling thing that she finds out about more when she visits the professor's house, and his late wife shows. It's just a smile that's trying to get inside him. And then this creature ends up basically becoming like the giant tall creature from that one scene in It Follows, like the only good one, and stalking through the house and all this, and just all that, all the smiles, all that. And what Rose ends up doing is she's getting choked out. She's like, oh my God, what the hell's going on? She's like, she doesn't know what to do. But then, this creature saying, oh, it's all in your mind. It's all in your mind, isn't it? But I'm in your mind. Well, it's my mind, not yours. Snaps the arm, breaks the lantern she has for light because there's no electricity in there. Breaks it over the creature's face, sets it on fire, runs out, gets in her car, races home, goes to Joel's apartment, and thanks him and just says, Could I stay here tonight? Because I put up so many walls, but you were breaking those walls down. I was so scared that you were going to see how I was. Can I stay here tonight? And can you stay with me? Sure, I'll stay with you. I'll stay with you forever. Can't escape it. You can't escape that. Once it's latched on you, you can't escape it. So she suddenly runs out of the apartment, and she's right back at the house. Right back at the house. And it's not on fire. What the shit? Joel gets there, somehow manages to track her phone. I don't quite get that. And she races back in the house. The creature is just like, there. It's like all tall and stuff like that. And then tears its face off. Second face tearing thing that we had, by the way, where Cal Penn's character did that in an earlier scene that was fucking frightening. And tears, shreds, opens Rose's mouth, dives in and everything. And then Rose is putting gas on herself, turns around, has a match, sets herself on fire. Joel witnesses it, and the cycle continues. The level of trauma continuing to be passed. You don't escape it. Anytime any suicide happens, the only people left affected by it are those that are left alive. That's pretty much it. Whether you know somebody, whether you don't, you witness that kind of stuff, it will stick with you. It sticks with you like a big bag of rocks. It is really, really, utterly frightening. I'm not saying the movie's wholly original, but the way it deals with stuff, this was very, very good. I'm a bit surprised this did not get just released to Paramount Plus, but they did the smart thing by releasing this in theaters. This gets an A+, and I expected to give this maybe a D, maybe a C at the most. A+, this is going to be right up there on my favorite movies of the year list, which I did not expect. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Recklin. I'll see you soon.